She handed him his morning coffee with a smile and a kiss. "I love you," she whispered. He was dying, and she knew it. She was the one killing him. His own wife, his own brother. Even the police he trusted weren't on it. But the woman who cleaned his toilets, the one he barely looked at, the one whose name he couldn't even remember, she's the only reason he's alive today. This story will destroy you. It will make you question everyone you trust. And by the end, you'll understand why the most dangerous people in your life might be sleeping right next to you. Watch until the end, because what happens in that ballroom will leave you speechless. Welcome to Reality Untold Stories. While you are here, please hit the subscribe button and comment your view on the story and where you're watching from. Section 1. The moment everything changed. You know, sometimes the worst moments of your life happen in complete silence. No dramatic music, no warning signs, just a heartbeat, and then everything you thought you knew shatters like glass. That's exactly what happened to Daniel Rivers on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon in his mansion in Beverly Hills, California. Daniel was a real estate mogul, the kind of man who owned half the skyscrapers in downtown Los Angeles. 52 years old, always dressed in expensive suits, always in control. Or at least, that's what he thought. He was walking through his hallway when a hand shot out from the darkness and pulled him into a storage closet. His heart nearly stopped. The hand belonged to Rosa, the woman who had been cleaning his house for the past 3 years. Her eyes were wide with fear, and she pressed one finger firmly against her lips. "Be quiet," her eyes said. "Your life depends on it." Through the crack in the door, Daniel watched something that would haunt him forever. His wife, Catherine, was standing in the living room with his younger brother, Jacob. But they weren't just talking. Catherine laughed softly, the kind of intimate laugh that made Daniel's blood run cold. And then Jacob spoke, his voice casual, like they were discussing the weather. "Is he still walking around?" Jacob asked. Catherine sighed with frustration. "I already put twice the amount in his morning coffee. I don't understand why he's still standing." Time stopped. Every word hung in the air like poison itself. Daniel felt his knees weaken. For the past 2 months, he'd been getting sick. Headaches that wouldn't stop. Dizziness during important meetings. His hands shaking so badly, he could barely sign contracts. His doctors said it was stress, maybe exhaustion from working too hard. They ran tests that came back normal. They told him to rest more, to take vitamins. But it wasn't stress. Someone was killing him slowly, deliberately, in his own home. And that someone was the woman he'd been married to for 15 years, working together with his own brother. Rosa kept her hand on his arm, keeping him still, keeping him quiet. She knew that if they heard even a whisper, even a breath, Daniel would be dead before sunrise. So they waited in that cramped closet, breathing the smell of cleaning supplies and fear, until Catherine and Jacob finally walked away. When Rosa finally pulled Daniel out of the house through the back door, he was shaking so hard he could barely walk. She practically dragged him to her old car, a beat-up Honda that had seen better days, and shoved him into the passenger seat. "We need to call the police," Daniel said, reaching for his phone. His voice was desperate, grasping for some kind of order in the chaos. "We need to call Detective Morrison. He's been my friend for years. He'll help us." Rosa's hand shot out and grabbed his wrist so hard it hurt. "No," she said, and her voice was steel. "You can't call him." "What are you talking about?" "Morrison is bought and paid for," Rosa interrupted. "Your brother didn't just decide to poison you, Mr. Rivers. He planned everything. Detective Morrison has been taking money from Jacob for months. I've seen them together. I've heard them talking. If you call that detective, you're just telling them exactly where to find you." Daniel felt the world tilt beneath him. Not just his wife, not just his brother, but the police too? The people who were supposed to protect him? Rosa was already moving. She held out her hand. "Give me your phone. Give me your watch. Give me anything that can track you." "What?" "No, this watch cost me." "I don't care what it cost," Rosa said, and there were tears in her eyes now. "Do you want to live or do you want to be right? Choose now." With trembling hands, Daniel took off his $50,000 watch. The one he'd bought to celebrate his biggest deal. The one that had his initials engraved on the back. He handed over his phone, the one with all his contacts, his whole life stored in its memory. Rosa took them both and drove straight to a junkyard on the outskirts of the city. Without a word, she rolled down the window and threw them into a pile of twisted metal and broken machines. Daniel watched them disappear into the garbage, and something inside him broke too. That wasn't just a watch and a phone. That was his identity, his power, his proof that he mattered in this world. But Rosa was right. None of it mattered if he was dead. She drove him through neighborhoods he'd never seen before, even though he'd lived in Los Angeles his whole life. Poor neighborhoods where the streetlights flickered and children played in front of houses that needed paint. Finally, she pulled up to a small house with bars on the windows and a tiny yard with dying grass. "This is my home," she said quietly. "You'll be safe here." Daniel looked at the house, then back at his mansion in his mind. The marble floors, the crystal chandeliers, the rooms he'd barely even walked into because he had so many. And now his life depended on hiding in a house smaller than his garage. As Rosa helped him inside, his legs finally gave out. The poison was still working its way through his system, and the shock was catching up with him. He collapsed onto her worn couch, and the fever took him under like a wave. The last thing he heard before darkness swallowed him was Rosa's voice, steady and strong. "Stay with me, Mr. Rivers. Don't you dare let them win." Fever dreams are strange things. They mix memory and nightmare until you can't tell what's real anymore. Daniel spent 3 days drifting in and out of consciousness on Rosa's couch, and every time he closed his eyes, he saw Catherine's face, smiling at him,
kissing his cheek,
handing him that morning coffee with both hands like it was a gift. How many times had he thanked her? How many times had he told her she was thoughtful, caring, the perfect wife? He'd been so grateful.
So blind.
So stupid. When the fever finally broke, Daniel woke up to find Rosa sitting in a chair beside him, her eyes red from lack of sleep. She'd been watching over him, keeping him alive, while the people who were supposed to love him had been counting down the days until his funeral. "Why?" Daniel whispered. His throat felt like sandpaper. "Why are you helping me? I barely know you. I probably never even learned your last name." Rosa's face softened, but there was sadness there too. "Hernandez," she said quietly. "My name is Rosa Hernandez. And I'm helping you because I saw the truth, Mr. Rivers. I saw what they were doing, and I couldn't just stand by and watch you die." "But you could have," Daniel said, and shame burned in his chest. "You could have just kept cleaning and collecting your paycheck and pretended you didn't know. It would have been safer for you." Rosa shook her head. "I couldn't live with myself if I did that. My mama always told me that when you see evil happening and you do nothing, you become part of that evil. And I won't be part of killing an innocent man, no matter how much money I need." Daniel felt tears sting his eyes. This woman, who he'd paid minimum wage and barely acknowledged when she cleaned his house, had more honor than anyone in his family. More honor than his wife of 15 years. More honor than the brother he'd helped build a career. "I'm sorry," Daniel said, and he meant it with everything in him. "I'm sorry I never saw you. I'm sorry I never asked about your life, your family, anything. You were just there. Like furniture. Like you weren't a real person." "Most rich people are like that," Rosa said without bitterness. "They look through us like we're ghosts. But you know what? Ghosts see everything. We hear everything. We know all the secrets because people forget we're in the room." She stood up and brought him a glass of water. Daniel's hands shook as he took it, but not from the poison this time. From something deeper. From the realization that he'd built his entire life on sand, surrounding himself with people who wanted his money, his power, his connections, but not him. Never him. "What happens now?" Daniel asked. "Now you rest," Rosa said. "And we figure out how to prove what they did before they figure out where you are." But that was easier said than done. Rosa's neighborhood was tight-knit, the kind of place where everybody knew everybody else's business. And a sick white man in an expensive torn shirt hiding in Rosa's house? That raised questions. Dangerous questions. The first person to notice was Mrs. Chun, Rosa's next-door neighbor. Daniel watched through the curtains as the old woman stood in her yard, staring at Rosa's house with narrowed eyes. She saw Rosa's car that hadn't moved in days. She saw the curtains that stayed closed even during the day. She was suspicious, and suspicious people talk. "She's going to tell someone?" Daniel said, his heart racing. Rosa nodded grimly. "I know. Mrs. Chun is a good woman, but she's also scared. This neighborhood has problems with gangs, with drugs. If she thinks I'm hiding something dangerous, she'll call the police to protect everyone else." "Then I need to leave," Daniel said, trying to stand. His legs wobbled but held. "I'm putting you in danger. I'm putting everyone here in danger." "Sit down," Rosa said firmly. "You're not strong enough yet. If you go out there now, you'll collapse in the street. And if someone recognizes you, if someone tells Jacob or Catherine where you are, it's over. Not just for you. For me too. They'll know I helped you." The weight of that hit Daniel like a punch. He'd been so focused on his own survival that he hadn't fully understood what Rosa had risked. If Catherine and Jacob found out that Rosa had saved him, she wouldn't just lose her job. She'd be a witness. A problem to eliminate. They'd already proven they were willing to kill. What was one more body? That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. He lay on Rosa's couch, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of a neighborhood that never fully rested. Dogs barking. Music playing somewhere down the street. Voices arguing in Spanish. And through it all, the terrible knowledge that every hour he stayed here, he was putting Rosa in more danger. But where could he go? His credit cards would be tracked the moment he used them. His friends were really business associates who would sell him out in a heartbeat if Jacob offered them the right deal. His family was trying to kill him. The police were corrupt. He had no one except a housekeeper who'd risked everything for a man who'd barely known her name. The next morning, Rosa came to him with a plan. "There's a charity gala happening downtown in 3 days," she said. "Big event. Lots of cameras, lots of people. Your wife and brother will definitely be there." "And you want me to go?" Daniel asked, not understanding. "I want you to expose them," Rosa said. "In public. In front of everyone. They've been telling people you're missing that they're so worried about you. They're playing the concerned family members while they wait for your body to turn up. But if you show up alive, if you tell everyone what they did, they can't hide anymore." Daniel felt fear clutch his heart. "Rosa, if we do that, if we confront them, they could kill us right there. In front of everyone. Or," Rosa said quietly, "we could keep hiding. And eventually they'll find us. And when they do, there won't be any cameras. There won't be any witnesses. There'll just be 2 more bodies that nobody important will care about." She was right. Daniel knew she was right. They couldn't hide forever. The poison was out of his system now, but the danger was growing every day. It was time to stop running. It was time to fight back. It was time to show the world who Catherine and Jacob really were. "Okay," Daniel said, his voice steady for the first time in days. "Let's do it. Let's end this." Rosa smiled, and Daniel saw the strength in her that he'd missed for 3 years. She wasn't just brave. She was fierce. And together, they were going to take down the people who thought they could get away with murder. The night of the gala, Daniel stood in Rosa's small bathroom, staring at himself in the mirror. He barely recognized the man looking back. His expensive haircut had grown out. His face was thinner, harder. His eyes had something in them they'd never had before. Fear, yes, but also purpose. Rosa had bought him clothes from a thrift store. Nothing fancy, just black pants and a dark jacket that didn't fit quite right. She'd given him a baseball cap to hide his face until the right moment. He looked like a different person. Maybe he was a different person now. "Are you ready?" Rosa asked from the doorway. She dressed up too, in a simple dress she'd borrowed from her sister. She looked beautiful, but more than that, she looked determined. "No," Daniel admitted. "I'm terrified. What if this doesn't work? What if nobody believes us?" "Then we tried," Rosa said simply. "And that's more than most people do. Most people see evil and they look away because it's easier. But not us. Not today." The gala was being held at the Grand Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. It was a charity event for children's hospitals, the kind of event where rich people wore expensive clothes and wrote big checks and felt good about themselves. Daniel had been to 100 events like this. He'd written those checks. He'd smiled for those cameras. He'd never once thought about the people serving drinks or cleaning up afterward. Rosa drove them there in her old Honda. They parked 6 blocks away and walked, staying in the shadows. Daniel kept his head down, his heart pounding so hard he thought it might burst. Every person they passed felt like a threat. Every car that slowed down felt like the end. When they reached the hotel, the entrance was lit up like a movie premiere. Cameras flashing, people in gowns and tuxedos, limousines pulling up one after another. It was Daniel's world, but he'd never felt more outside of it. "We go in through the side," Rosa whispered. "The service entrance. Nobody will look twice at us." She was right. They slipped in through a door marked staff only, and nobody stopped them. To the people at this event, they were invisible. Just workers. Just nobody. And for once, that invisibility was exactly what they needed. Inside, the ballroom was magnificent. Crystal chandeliers. Tables covered in white silk. Flowers everywhere. An orchestra playing soft music while people laughed and sipped champagne. Daniel scanned the crowd, his mouth dry, until he saw them. Catherine and Jacob, standing together near the bar. Catherine wore a black dress that probably cost $10,000. Jacob wore a tuxedo with a red pocket square. They were smiling, talking to people, accepting condolences about Daniel's disappearance. Playing their parts perfectly. Daniel felt rage burn through him, so hot he thought he might explode. These people had tried to kill him. They'd poisoned him day after day, smiling at him while they did it. And now they were here, pretending to be victims, pretending to be concerned, collecting sympathy like it was currency. "Wait," Rosa whispered, grabbing his arm. "Not yet. We need the right moment." They stayed in the shadows, watching. Daniel saw people he knew. Business partners. Friends. People who'd been to his house for dinner. And they were all believing the lie. They were all giving Catherine hugs, shaking Jacob's hand, telling them how sorry they were. Then Jacob moved. He'd spotted someone across the room. He pushed through the crowd with purpose, and Daniel's blood turned to ice when he saw who Jacob was walking toward. Rosa. Jacob had seen Rosa. They'd been too careless. They'd gotten too close. And now Jacob was moving toward them like a shark that had smelled blood in the water. Rosa tried to back away, but it was too late. Jacob grabbed her wrist hard, pulling her toward a side corridor where the crowd was thinner. Daniel followed, his heart in his throat, staying just far enough back that Jacob wouldn't see him yet. "So you're the problem," Jacob hissed, his friendly mask dropping away to reveal the monster underneath. "You're the one who helped him. Where is he? Where is my brother?" Rosa tried to pull free, but Jacob's grip tightened. Daniel could see her wince in pain. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, but her voice shook. "Don't lie to me," Jacob snarled. "I know you took him. I know you're hiding him somewhere. Tell me where he is, or I swear to God." "Let her go." Daniel's voice cut through the corridor like a knife. He stepped forward, pulling off the baseball cap, showing his face clearly for the first time in days. Jacob's face went white. Actually white, like he'd seen a ghost. "Hello, brother," Daniel said, and his voice was cold as ice. "Miss me?" Jacob's mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. Behind him, people were starting to notice, starting to turn, starting to realize that Daniel Rivers, the missing billionaire, was standing right there. "You're supposed to be dead," Jacob finally whispered. "Yeah," Daniel said. "I was supposed to be. Thanks to the poison you and Catherine put in my coffee every morning. Thanks to you buying off Detective Morrison. Thanks to you trying to steal my company, my money, my entire life while I slowly died." The corridor wasn't quiet anymore. People were gathering. Phones were coming out. Cameras started recording. And Jacob, trapped in the spotlight, did the only thing he could think of. He swung at Daniel. But Daniel was ready. He'd spent 3 days thinking about this moment. 3 days burning with anger and betrayal. He dodged Jacob's punch and threw one of his own, connecting hard with his brother's jaw. Jacob went down
Hard.
and the crowd erupted. Everything happened so fast after that. Jacob on the floor, holding his jaw. Rosa stepping back, breathing hard. The crowd pressing in, everyone trying to see, trying to understand what was happening. And then the flash of cameras, dozens of them, all pointed at Daniel. Someone screamed. Someone else shouted for security. The music stopped. The entire gala ground to a halt as everyone turned to stare at the man who just punched his own brother in front of Los Angeles' richest and most powerful people. And then Catherine appeared. She pushed through the crowd, her face perfect with concern, reaching for Daniel like she was so relieved to see him. Daniel. Oh my God, Daniel, you're alive. We've been so worried. We thought you were
Dead.
Daniel said loudly, his voice carrying across the silent ballroom. Yeah, I know. That was the plan, wasn't it, Catherine? She froze. Her hand stopped mid-reach. Her perfect mask cracked just a little. Darling, you're not making sense. You've been missing for days. You're clearly not well. Let me take you home, and… Home. Daniel laughed, and it was a bitter sound. You mean back to the place where you've been poisoning my coffee every morning? Back to where you and Jacob have been slowly killing me so you could take everything I've built. The crowd gasped. Actual gasped, like something out of a movie. Catherine's face went pale, but she recovered quickly. She was good at this. She'd been lying to him for months, maybe years. She knew how to perform. That's insane, she said, looking around at everyone watching. He's clearly having some kind of breakdown. Daniel, please, let's go somewhere private and… No more private conversations, Daniel said. No more lies. Tell them, Catherine. Tell all these people what you did. Tell them how you put poison in my drinks. Tell them how you worked with my brother to kill me. I never. I heard you. Daniel's voice cracked with emotion. I was hiding in a closet, and I heard you tell Jacob that you'd doubled the dose. I heard you wonder why I was still alive. I heard everything. Catherine's eyes darted around, looking for an exit, looking for support, looking for any way out. But there was nowhere to go. The crowd had formed a circle around them. Every phone in the room was recording. This was being live-streamed. This was going viral. There was no escape. And then the doors burst open. Federal agents poured into the ballroom, led by a woman in a dark suit with FBI written across her back. Daniel had never been so happy to see law enforcement in his life. Catherine Rivers, Jacob Rivers, you're both under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, and fraud, the lead agent said, pulling out handcuffs. This is ridiculous, Jacob shouted from the floor, finally finding his voice. You can't arrest us. We're the victims here. He's the one who… We have evidence, the agent said calmly. Bank records showing payments to a corrupt police detective. Text messages between the two of you. A full confession from your estate manager, Lisa Morrison, who says she was coerced into obtaining the poison for you. And we have a witness who saw and heard everything. The agent looked at Rosa, who stood straighter, her chin up, refusing to be invisible anymore. That woman is nobody. Catherine spat, her mask finally dropping completely. She's just a housekeeper. She's the person who saved my life, Daniel said quietly, and the whole room fell silent. While you were trying to kill me, while my own family was betraying me, Rosa Hernandez risked everything to keep me alive. She's worth more than everyone in this room combined. Tears were streaming down Daniel's face now, but he didn't care. He reached out and took Rosa's hand, holding it where everyone could see. Not as a boss and an employee. Not as a rich man and a poor woman. As equals. As friends. As two people who'd survived hell together. The agents handcuffed Catherine and Jacob. As they were led away, Catherine was screaming about lawyers and how this was all a mistake. Jacob was silent, his face dark with rage. But it didn't matter anymore. The truth was out. The cameras had caught everything. There was no spinning this, no PR team that could fix it, no amount of money that could buy their way out. Daniel stood in the center of that ballroom, his hand still holding roses, and watched his old life end. The life where money meant power, where family meant blood, where he'd been so focused on building an empire that he'd never stopped to ask who he was building it with. "Are you okay?" Rosa whispered. Daniel looked at her, really looked at her. This woman who'd had every reason to look the other way, who'd risked her job, her safety, her life, for someone who'd barely noticed she existed. This woman who'd taught him what real loyalty looked like. "Yeah," Daniel said, and he meant it. "For the first time in a long time, I think I actually am." The media called it the scandal of the decade. Billionaire's wife and brother caught in murder plot. The headlines were everywhere. The footage from the gala went viral within hours. Daniel's face was on every news channel, every website, every social media platform. But the story that really captured people's hearts wasn't about the money or the poison or the betrayal. It was about Rosa. "Housekeeper saves billionaire's life," was how most outlets framed it. But that headline bothered Daniel because it made it sound like some kind of fairy tale, like Rosa was just a supporting character in his story. That wasn't right. That wasn't true. The real story was simpler and more powerful. It was about a woman who'd seen evil happening and refused to look away, even when looking away would have been so much easier and safer. It was about choosing what's right over what's comfortable. It was about courage that had nothing to do with money or power. 2 weeks after the gala, after giving testimony to the FBI, after watching Catherine and Jacob get denied bail, after spending hours with lawyers and agents and reporters, Daniel finally had a quiet moment. The mansion felt empty now, not just because Catherine was gone, but because it had always been empty, beautiful and expensive and hollow. He called Rosa. She answered on the third ring, her voice cautious. Things had been weird between them since the arrest. Not bad, just uncertain. They'd been through something intense together, and now they had to figure out what came next.
"Rosa," Daniel said.
"I know you're probably tired of talking to me and reporters and everyone else, but I need to ask you something important." "Okay," she said carefully. "Will you have dinner with me? Not at some fancy restaurant. Not with cameras or other people around. Just you and me. As friends. As equals." There was a long pause. Daniel held his breath. "Why?" Rosa asked, and her voice was soft, vulnerable in a way he'd never heard before. "Why does this matter to you so much?" "Because you saw me when I was invisible," Daniel said. "When I was dying, when I was nobody, when everything that made me important was gone, you still saw me as a person worth saving. And I need you to know that I see you too now. Not as my housekeeper. Not as the woman who saved me. As Rosa Hernandez. As someone I want to know." Another pause. Then quietly, "Okay.
"Yes."
I'll have dinner with you." They met at a small Mexican restaurant in Rosa's neighborhood. Nothing fancy. Plastic chairs and paper menus and the best tacos Daniel had ever tasted. They talked for 3 hours. About Rosa's family. About her dreams. About how she'd come to America from Mexico when she was 16. About her daughter who was in college, studying to be a nurse. About all the things Daniel had never asked in 3 years of Rosa cleaning his house 5 days a week. "I'm selling the mansion," Daniel said as they shared flan for dessert. "I can't live there anymore. Too many ghosts. Too many bad memories." "What will you do?" Rosa asked. "I don't know yet," Daniel admitted. "But I'm going to figure it out. The right way this time. No more surrounding myself with people who only care about my money. No more building an empire on sand." He looked at her across the small table. "I'm also starting a foundation. For people who work in service industries. Housekeepers, janitors, people who keep the world running but don't get seen or appreciated. Better pay. Better protection. Legal support if their employers mistreat them. And I want you to help me run it." Rosa's eyes went wide. "Daniel, I don't know anything about running a foundation. I clean houses." "You know about dignity," Daniel said. "You know about honor. You know what it feels like to be invisible. That's worth more than any business degree. Will you do it?" Will you help me? Rosa's eyes filled with tears. You're serious? You really mean this? I've never been more serious about anything in my life. She reached across the table and took his hand. Then yes, I'll help you. We'll do it together. 6 months later, the Rivers Foundation opened its doors. It wasn't in Beverly Hills or downtown Los Angeles. It was in the heart of the city, in a neighborhood just like Rosa's, where the people who needed help could actually reach it. Daniel was there every day, not in a suit anymore, but in jeans and a regular shirt, listening to stories, learning names, seeing people. And Rosa was beside him, running programs, training staff, making sure that every person who walked through those doors felt seen, felt valued, felt like they mattered. Catherine and Jacob went to trial. The evidence was overwhelming. Catherine got 15 years. Jacob got 20. Their lawyers tried every trick they knew, but there was no escaping what they'd done. No amount of money could buy them out of prison. Daniel visited Jacob once. Just once. His brother looked smaller somehow, diminished without the expensive clothes and the freedom and the power he'd craved so desperately. Was it worth it? Daniel asked through the glass partition. Was the money worth trying to kill me? Jacob stared at him with empty eyes. You were always Mom's favorite, he said finally. You got everything. The company.
The respect.
The success. I just wanted what should have been mine. I would have shared it with you, Daniel said quietly. If you'd asked. If you'd been honest. I would have given you half of everything. I didn't want half, Jacob said. I wanted it all. And that was the difference, Daniel realized. Some people are never satisfied. Some people would rather destroy everything than accept less than what they think they deserve. Daniel never visited Jacob again. There was no point. The brother he thought he knew had never really existed. But Rosa was real. The foundation was real. The hundreds of people they helped every month were real. And slowly, day by day, Daniel was becoming real too. Not the billionaire. Not the mogul. Just a man trying to do better, trying to be better, trying to live a life that actually meant something. 1 year after that terrible night in the closet, Daniel and Rosa sat on the roof of the foundation building, watching the sun set over Los Angeles. The city spread out before them. Millions of lives, millions of stories, millions of people just trying to survive, and maybe find a little bit of happiness along the way. Do you ever regret it? Daniel asked. Saving me? Your life would have been simpler if you'd just looked the other way. Rosa was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled. You know what I learned? Simple isn't the same as good. My life is harder now, sure. I'm busier. I have more responsibility. But I also have purpose. I have pride. I have a friend. She looked at him. I have no regrets. Neither do I, Daniel said. And he meant it. Because here's what he'd learned, what he wanted to tell everyone who'd listen. Your real worth isn't measured in money or property or power. It's measured in the moments when you have nothing left, when everything is stripped away, and someone still thinks you're worth saving. It's measured in the people who stand beside you when the masks come off and the truth comes out. It's measured in loyalty that isn't bought, in courage that isn't rewarded, in love that isn't guaranteed to pay you back. Catherine and Jacob had everything, money, status, opportunity, and they threw it all away because they wanted more. Rosa had nothing, just a small house and a beat-up car and a daughter in college, and she risked it all to save a stranger. That's the difference between existing and living, between having a life and having a life that matters. Daniel stood up and offered Rosa his hand. Come on, he said. We have 20 more applications to review before tomorrow. Rosa took his hand and let him pull her up. You know you don't have to work so hard anymore, she said. You already proved you're a good person. I'm not trying to prove anything, Daniel said. I'm just trying to be the person you saw when you pulled me into that closet. The person worth saving. They walked back downstairs together, to the foundation, to the work, to the life they were building one day at a time. Not as a billionaire and a housekeeper. Not as a boss and an employee. But as partners. As friends. As two people who'd learned the hardest way possible what really matters in this life. And if you take nothing else from the story, take this. Pay attention to the people you don't see. The ones serving your food, cleaning your office, taking care of your children. They're not invisible. They're not furniture. They're human beings with dreams and fears and courage you might never understand until the day comes when you need them. And when that day comes, when the masks fall off and you see who people really are, pray that you've been the kind of person worth saving. Because in the end, that's all that matters. Not what you own, not what you've built, but who stands beside you when everything falls apart. That's the real measure of a life well lived.